After our pitch fight, we're now coming to another heavyweight champion of Berlin, Europe, and the whole internet scene. HitFox is in the media right now because they're starting venture capital in the US as well. So I'm pretty proud that Jan Beckers, a serial entrepreneur, founder of HitFox, is today here to speak with us about his 6 first companies he founded. I'm looking forward to what he's presenting today. So come to stage, Jan, and great to have you here. Thanks.
Thanks, Sebastian, for the introduction. I'm glad to be here today, and I will speak about the idea, team, and capital. For me, the central elements of each startup, and I will share the lessons that I've made while founding 6 companies. Briefly about me, I'm 30 years old. I started 6 companies. I started when I was 20 in the event business, organizing parties during my studies. Then I moved into the internet sector, co-founded 4 internet companies, which now are all successful and created 400 jobs currently. The most ambitious venture I started definitely is HitFox. We are the first incubator in the 30 billion game distribution market. We have 90 employees in 4 countries at the moment. We are profitable. That means we don't need any further investment money. And we will grow about 500% in 2013. This is already sure at this time of the year. Let me come to the 3 basic factors of startup success: idea, team, and funding. Looking at the idea, there's one big problem associated to the idea. And this is 90% of all innovative ideas will fail. And that means, in the end, there is a big problem in the start of every company you need to overcome. But I think there are 4 solutions of solving the problem that innovation mostly fails. And at least these are the 4 solutions that I've taken out of the companies I started so far. The first solution is you're really a true expert in the field where you start a company. And this means not you've done 3 months of market research, but this could mean you solve the problems that you have as a customer, or you're really since 5 years in a market and really understand everything going around. This was just the case why I started my first company in the party and event business, just applying what I knew best when I was 20. So this can be a solution. Then for the internet industry, there's a much more common solution of just copy or adapt. And a few years ago, this was a great strategy. 5 years ago, if you saw something great with a proof of concept in the US, it took a long while until the first copycats started in Germany. So you could eliminate the idea risk by just copying. But the problem is, now where the market is much more efficient, in the end the idea risk may be eliminated from copying. But because it's so successful just to copy, there's a lot of competition risk. That means whenever there's a strong role model in the US or somewhere else, there are 5 or 10 incubators just copying it. And so competition risk becomes very high for copycat models. But still, it is a solution to solve the idea problem. Another solution, or not a solution, it's just what's happening in the market, is you just start with something, see it doesn't work, but then have the team, the right team, and the commitment to just solve it. This is just, you start, you fail, and pivot. That's not a real strategy, but that's of course also what's happening in the market and what works. So for example, with Absolventa, we did it. The initial model didn't work super well, but then the team just found the right model just by modifying a few parts of the ideas. So start, fail, and pivot. That's always the solution. Important is the commitment you show to the company and to the direction you had. But then for me, the best strategy to overcome the idea problem is just, instead of focusing on a very small idea or a feature you can develop, or instead of something very specific where you think this is the idea, you just focus on a broad market, just on something big, promising, which will be there in 5 years, and then you just focus on the best execution and on building the best resource pool for this broad market. This is what we did at HitFox. So basically, when I was at SponsorPay, we have started a game monetization company, and I asked myself, what could I do afterwards to work with the same customers, to work with the same field of clients, and to work with the same knowledge where I could just apply that. And I knew game distribution is the market. I didn't know what would be the idea at that time when I decided to start a game distribution company. I just knew there's a great market, and I will be able to create the setup which will be successful in that market. And on our way there, we will figure out what is the best business model, or what are the best business model to go with. And this is, in the end, what happened. So actually, we didn't stick with the initial business model, because that was a bad decision, but the whole direction, that was very right. And we could just take what we've built out of the power, direct it in a little bit different direction, and then we had a very strong business model within a strong setup. So choosing a market instead of an idea might oftentimes be the best strategy to get started. And then the most important learning about ideas is to build a successful company, to build a successful, sustainable, long-term company. It's not about having one idea. That's just great to get started and to get traction fast and to attract the initial setup. But you need 1,000 ideas to overcome each day's problems. And that just means the idea is important and helps you to attract a good setup. It can just make things much faster, but in the end, it's about the execution that you show every day. And because execution is the most important thing for your startup success, the team is the most important factor of the 3 I mentioned. A strong team is just the basis for everything. If your idea is weak, as it was initially at HitFox, a strong team makes it successful. If the team is weak, you will not even be successful with a great idea. And if you're successful, then only for a very short term until better competition is there. So because the team is so important, I, as the CEO in the companies I started, have always been 50% a headhunter, especially in the first 6 months. That means I devote most of my time, especially in the very young stages of a company, in just looking who are the best talents and how can I convince them to join my company to make our setup the strongest. So the CEO should be very much a headhunter for a company. And then it's no surprise, you should only hire the very best. Everybody knows that. But then I oftentimes see companies hire people, but don't make sure they stay. So if you hire the best, be aware that the best people have a lot of options, and be aware that you as a company must provide them with the growth options that make them stay. And at HitFox, for example, our goal is that with each year, the best of our employees became our co-founders. And that already happened with 2 of our early employees, and there will be more employees that become our co-founders. So that keeps the employees in the company, in the talent pool that we have, and make sure we create value for the long term, because the best talent is not running away. And the second part is, of course, if you hire employees, top employees, you want to give them shares, and you want to make sure, of course, the incentives are right for them to stay in the long term. So about 50 or 60% of the team at HitFox owns shares in the company. talking about another election I made very early in the party and event business, complementary skills are more important than starting your company with your best buddy. So basically, if you start a company and you as the CEO or the initiator see a certain direction for where you're going, then just analyze what will it take in this market, which competencies do you need to be successful. And there are always 3 or 4 competencies that make you successful. And you should have each competency covered with one co-founder. And so select the best people for the complementary skills that you don't have on your own. For me, this was initially when I was a young entrepreneur, looking for the best partners on the IT side, which is the super critical part if you yourself have a business background, and the other way around. So look for complementary skills in your co-founders. And then I oftentimes see that companies look for people that can just fill the expectations of a certain role that you need, that they have the skills of online marketing, coding, or certain specific skills that they have a sales network. But if you want to build companies for the long term, and not only just to build and flip, you must make sure that the people you hire also fit into the company culture you create. And you create it and think, this is a company culture we intentionally create to be successful in this industry. And all long-term great companies have a specific culture that makes sense in the industry, and the great companies know only to hire people that also fit in culturally. Coming to funding. Funding and finding the right investors is a matchmaking, a bit like dating. So first of all, you don't want to appear needy in any situation. Basically, you as a founder, you have to offer a lot. If you speak with any investor, they're just looking out the whole time, looking for the best teams and the best business models and ideas to invest. So they want something from you, you want something from them. It's a partnership. And it's not they are there and you are here. It's not the way, at least not if you have strong resources and a great team. Then you are pretty much on ice level to talk to investors. And then, because there are about 100 VCs only in Germany and 5,000 angels probably in Germany, you want to be very specific why you are interested in a specific investor when you approach him. Because if you're not, if people sometimes approach me as an angel investor and just state they are looking for an investor and they have read I'm an angel investor, then I'm not interested, because I'm asking myself, why are they coming to me? And the answer is probably because the other 500 investors they talked first with said it's not interesting, and so why should I have a look? So when you look for investors, be very specific why you want to work with exactly this investor. And this could be their industry expertise, their specific network, or in the best case, you have already a trust relation with the investor before they invest in your company. And then you shouldn't speak with the whole market, because also the investors talk with each other. So just focus on a short list of initially 5 investors, talk with them initially, and then maybe speak with a few more, but don't spread. So if 20 investors don't want to work with you, probably number 20 and 100 also not, then change something. And then a learning also I made with HitFox. So we had initially, just from the seed funding, just based on a paper on one paper and nothing was there, we had 4 great value-reputed investors, but which all had only a small stake of about 5% in HitFox. And as some of you may read, we recently bought them out by swapping shares in some of my other companies. And this was just the reason that if you have one investor with a bigger stake, he will be much more knowledgeable about what you are doing. He will be much more committed. And also, the more investors you have on board, the more reporting and just communication you will have. So for a company, if you don't need investors, that's great. Then the management will be in control and can take smart long-term decisions. If you need money, I would usually advise have a few or one committed investor over having a huge bunch of angels and investors. So focus is important again. And then when you found a great investor where you think this could be the match, then make sure that they can feel you're committed to making this company a success as well. Because a good investor just can feel if you're just in for the very short money and if you would be out if things go complicated, make sure you're committed to make your startup a success, and investors will see it, the good ones, they will feel it, and then by being long-term committed, you will attract much better investors to your company. If you combine good execution, the right resources in all three areas, then chances are good that you're succeeding in what is the general and ultimate task of every startup. Every startup is nothing about creating just a self-fulfilling prophecy. You create resources. Those resources create an initial success, bring you in the upward spiral, and because things are going well and your resources are strong, this will just attract more better talent, more partners to work with, and more other resources just joining the company. So if you're starting a company, besides the general tasks the market has for you, these are specific, just be aware, as the CEO, as the company founder, you're in the business of creating a self-fulfilling prophecy by bringing together and executing with the best elements of a startup you can get. If you want to learn more, just as what you could grab on the superficial presentation here in 15 minutes, I want to invite you to have a look at our website. So there were 30 open positions. Actually, we would hire rather about 50 people if we could just find the right. And yeah, looking forward to see a few of you probably working with HitFox. And if not, looking forward to your questions here and maybe running into some of you. Thank you very much for the attention.